Hello, star people. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Chrys King. I'm a shamanic healer, psychic medium, astrologer, ascension guide, and creator of the Medicine Alchemist and Ascended Astrology. I assist awakened souls, light workers, and starseeds like yourself heal, connect with spirit and star beings, create 5D businesses, and ascend the false matrix. And this podcast will take you on a multi-dimensional journey through the world of shamanism, ascended astrology, UFOs and starseed contact, conspiracy theories, or should I say truths, and the multi-dimensional nature of reality, with the intention of bridging the gap between 3D and 5D so that we can ascend the matrix together. Today I'm speaking with Larry Pahl, researcher, educator, and co-founder of the American Institute for Pyramid Research. Larry has spent years studying ancient Egypt and the Great Pyramids, combining on-set exploration with historical and symbolic analysis. He leads tours, publishes on pyramid symbolism, and is dedicated to uncovering the deeper meanings encoded in Egypt's sacred architecture. I'm excited and honored to welcome him to the show. Thank you all again for joining me for this episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I have a very special guest here today. Larry, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience? And I just also want to say thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chrys. It's nice to be in the presence of a king. So, ascend the matrix. I've got on my license plate here in Tennessee, the step pyramid, a picture of the step pyramid on my license plate, because you only have to have the number on one side of the vehicle. So I've got the step pyramid, and it's staircase to heaven. So ascend the matrix is like a staircase. So the step pyramid, the first pyramid built in the history of the world, the largest building on the world when it was built, it really began stone building. It is a staircase to heaven.
Yeah.
And the Great Pyramid, the most amazing pyramid in the world, used to be called the Ladder of Set, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
The Mysterious Staircase, one of my great discoveries in Egypt. People have
I definitely want to talk about that.
I actually measured it. That's a staircase to heaven. And so that's a theme, and that's one thing. You're interested in pyramids. That's one thing. Pyramids
very
are
much so.
A gateway to heaven. So, I'm the director of the American Institute for Pyramid Research, a registered not-for-profit think tank, basically in Tennessee, where I live. I've led 20 tours to Egypt, and that is the focus of my life. My life is dedicated now to basically studying ancient megaliths and chasing down their secrets, and that is what I do. That is what I am. That's who I am. That's what I do. I like to play tennis. I like to hike. I like to do some things.
He's a normal guy too, you all, okay?
Yeah. But my position as director of the American Institute for Pyramid Research is a full-time job. I have used to make my students, I taught about the high school and college level. My students used to laugh when I started telling them about another job I had, because I've had so many jobs, people can't believe it. They simply can't believe. I've counted well over 37 jobs I've had. I've been I've been a principal of a small high school. I've been a corporate executive. I've been a political science teacher at 3 different colleges. I've been a financial consultant. I've been a bouncer at a bar. I've been a cab driver. I've been a bricklayer, a carpenter. I mean, it's unbelievable the number of things I've done. And you think, well, a guy that's got a resume like that's got to be a ne'er-do-well, because he's got fired from a lot of jobs. He just can't do anything. I just tell you, if I gave you as a reference every one of my either superiors or one of my colleagues on all those jobs, they'd say nice things about me. So it's just, this crazy life, I used to tell
but maybe all of these jobs were actually leading you toward what you're doing now, even if they seem completely.
The way that's true is because I was one of those popular teachers. I like to, relate to kids and stuff, but I did my job to the district. I taught my curriculum, whether it was world history or civics or political science, whatever it was. So really, when I hit the ground running after retiring from all that, a lot of people, when they retire, quote unquote, they go through some real psychological turmoil, because they thought they were just going to fish and hunt and play golf. And all of a sudden they don't know who they are, because they were defined by their work life. And now that they don't have that work life, they're Mr. Big corner office so-and-so. They don't know who they are. I'm on the other hand, when I retired, from those other things, I didn't really retire, but I retired from, the corporate world and the teaching world. I hit the ground running because I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to study ancient megaliths. I've made a lot of discoveries uh, based on the firm belief that ancient sages encoded these things. They left them, they embedded them in monuments.
Yes.
And I've hit pay dirt. So even though these kind of things are not really recognized in most mainstream science, they're if they're mentioned at all, it's with the word coincidence. But to
Right.
me, the coincidences are beyond it. They're just, you have to be in denial to not see that the sages, left these messages, and I found them and they're there. And I go forward. I was really surprised when I submitted, to a scientific journal, Archaeological Discovery. I submitted a paper on
When
uh,
was this?
the speed of light in the Great Pyramid. I could
When
show
was
you,
this?
I could show you where the article is online. But it's a legitimate, scientific journal. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, they're never going to take an article that's called The Speed of Light in the Great Pyramid because they're going to think I'm taking some modern esoteric belief and throwing it.
Right.
But what I did in the article, I was strictly scientific. The most scientific thing of all is empirical measurement, meters,
Yes.
feet, ounces.
Right.
All I did was take the measurements of the passages in the Great Pyramid. I went to the best, I've got a huge Great Pyramid library. I went to the best measurements that have ever been taken. And so that's science. And I just
Right.
showed that from basically the bottom of the pyramid up to the top, if you take all the main passages of the Great Pyramid, that the numbers there are the numbers in the speed of light.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
there's something
so,
very, very intelligent about the design of most of our sacred sites and megaliths, but definitely when you go to the pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx and the three pyramids, and there's also other structures that aren't there anymore that would have had a point. And the measurements are, some of them are the measurement between our planet and the sun and our planet and something. It's like something was very intelligent about it, and it was reflecting the cosmos as well, certain star systems. But before we go into the mysteries and the magic of Egypt and these megaliths, how the hell did you even get to this point of doing some
well,
people's dream job? How did you become
yeah.
Indiana Jones?
Well, I tell people I'm not Indiana Jones because Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford, a paid Hollywood actor. He's fictional. I'm not fictional, but all the things that people like about Indiana Jones, okay, he's Dr. Jones. He's an academic. Well, I presented
That's
it.
right.
I've been published in scientific journals. I presented at
Yeah.
major Egyptological conferences. So I'm Dr.
Yeah.
Jones. He's chasing the Holy Grail. I'm chasing down real secrets. Okay.
That's
He gets
right.
in trouble
Right.
with the authorities. I've had my footage taken. I've been taken to
I'm
the
sure
police
you
station in
have.
Giza. I've been roughed up by the police, so
Oh,
and I'm often seen with some very charming ladies because people on my tours are usually, these intelligent, esoteric, new age females and men
yeah.
too. I mean, it's I get a bunch of just well qualified,
Elevated
nicely
people.
tailored, fantastic human beings. So all the
Yeah.
things that are fake are real with me. So I'm not Indiana Jones. That's fake. I'm not fake. How I got into it is, as a young man, I got interested in prophecy. Not sure how, but somehow it just excited me the idea that somehow somebody, a seer, could see the future. How do you do that? That's a mystery. So I read
Yeah.
all the prophecies of Nostradamus. I read Edgar Cayce. I read the prophecies in the Bible. And then somebody told me the Great Pyramid is the prophecy. And I said, what? And so I started to study the Great Pyramid. That got me into studying pyramids. So I kind of left the prophecy thing, but the Great Pyramid is a prophecy too, in the sense that the early, what are today called pyramidologists or sometimes pyramidiates, they believed that there was a scale an inch for a year inside the Great Pyramid, and so the Great Pyramid was a prophetic scale that could tell of events that had happened and would happen. So that's how I got into it. Just somehow the interest in prophecy led me to an interest in the Great Pyramid, and then it's just been studying the chasing down what the ancient sages left us.
Yeah. And so as you embark on this incredible journey into our ancient past and basically become a living expression of the archetype that Spielberg was bringing uh, to the world stage in the form of Indiana Jones, because I grew up on those movies, and there are hidden codes and messages in there. There are even things in there that I don't even think they realized they were saying. And I think the idea of these lost artifacts and especially the fact that there are powers that be or authorities that do not want a lot of the people who are really doing the work in uncovering the truth I kind of want you to go into that for a moment. Like, what has your experience been like with the police or authorities or the government when it comes to this stuff? And why do you think that they are doing this? We
Well,
know, everyone
my friend
listening
Robert Grant.
knows, I know, but I want to hear from you.
Okay, well, my friend Robert Grant is quite famous in Giza. He's a polymath who's, got he's an influencer. He's got robertedwardgrant.com is his website. He's got a huge Instagram channel, a huge following in social media. And he speaks all around the world at, crypto conferences at the Vatican. He's been knighted. He's Sir Robert Grant. He's, a ton of things. And he spent $40,000 one time, so he and I could spend 8 hours in the Great Pyramid together.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so he told me, so he spent more money in Giza than anybody else. He's rented the pyramids for 3 nights. He's, had thrown some great, extravaganzas there. And he told me, at one point that they were serious about, kicking me out of Egypt, like I heard they did to Graham Hancock one time. Uh, you know, for yeah, because the main thing I'm known for is going where you're not supposed to go.
yeah.
And
That's what we
it's I
love
did
around
have a
here.
problem with that as a kid. Growing up, there is something in me, like when I used to travel standby flying all through college and everything, I never buckled my seatbelt on airplanes. They always say, buckle your seatbelt. And I would just never do it. And the stewardess would walk by and point it out, and I kind of wave at it like, okay, and then I just wouldn't never did it. So yes,
Yeah,
there is a streak of me.
I
But
have
that's
that
not
same
really
streak.
that's not what leads to me doing this at Giza. What leads to me is that I know that these revelations are there, and I too totally respect the not just the right, but the necessity for any government to protect its resources. So I do not begrudge. It's sort of like, when Socrates was in jail and his friends came to bail him out, in those different Socratic dialogues, and he said, no, I've lived under the rules of Athens. I've been a beneficiary of Athens laws, and they think I am misleading children. I disagree, but I was judged this way in a court of law. So no, I'm not going to
Yeah,
let you break me out. I'm going to obey
right.
the laws of Greece. So I don't
Yeah.
begrudge the fact that they've sometimes, but I'll tell you this, between you and me in the deep blue sea, because I don't think he's going to watch this, but Ashraf is the guy who's the head of the Giza Plateau. His title is the general director of the pyramids. That's the title. Zahi Hawass had that before he became, the chief minister of antiquities. He was the
Mhm.
the guy in charge of Giza, so in charge of all the monuments, all the police, all the concessions, everything that's going on at Giza. He's in charge of that, and he's the one that's had me roughed up and followed and stuff, and he's chastised me. But he's told me, I don't know if I should say it on the air now, but he's told me he respects my work. He's told me several times he respects my work. So, and I've had sometimes after I've been roughed up, these
That's
guys that see me on the
interesting.
plateau, maybe they're on their own time or they're not working. They say, hey, look, I'm sorry I had to, take your footage, but it's just my job and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah,
there's kind of an attitude of respect because he knows that I love Egypt. He
yeah.
knows I love the secrets of ancient Egypt, but he's also got authorities over him, and they can't be letting this little Indiana Jones guy, do whatever he wants. So,
Right.
I get it, but it's really not just trying to get away with something. It's that, like they don't have no trespassing signs. So like when, the Tomb of the Birds, which had been closed for 15 years, Zahi Hawass put the iron bars over the Tomb of the Birds. I went there one time by myself because that was the one year where everybody canceled on my tour. I didn't cancel the tour, but because of the war that was going on, everybody canceled my tour. And I told everybody, I'm not canceling the tour. You can get your money back if you want, but I'm going. And I went by
Right.
myself. So since I
Yeah.
was by myself, I did things I often can't do with tourists. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to the Tomb of the Birds, take a selfie of myself with the locked doors behind me, saying and I went there and the doors were open. I couldn't
Wow.
believe it. Okay.
Wow.
So I went into the Tomb of the Birds. Well, they don't let you. If you try and do it now, like even when the day I tried to do it there, you usually don't make it. Usually the guards see and they say get out. But sometimes you can sneak through when they just happen to be looking the other way or something. And so, but it doesn't say no trespassing. So I did it because it's the Tomb of the Birds. It's got this, it's the supposedly there's the passage goes all the way to the second pyramid. We hear about all the
Mm.
things that are under the Khafre pyramid, the second pyramid. Well, the Tomb of the Birds is supposed to be one of the things that goes there through these tunneling systems. And Andrew
Yeah.
Collins is the one who made it famous. He was just
Yeah.
there again recently because of, this stuff. So, that's an example. I'm going someplace you're not supposed to go. The guards don't let you. But if they don't tell you no, and there's no trespassing sign, and you paid money to get into the
Yeah.
plateau, Why
Right.
wouldn't you go there? So that's just an example. So
Yeah.
my bad boy behavior is just trying to get to the secrets. It's not trying to get anybody, you know.
Well, we wouldn't have a whole, I think there's what, five of them now. We wouldn't have five Indiana Jones movies if he was a not, breaking the rules. Your story's interesting because of that. And, it takes somebody who is curious enough as you are and who has a thirst for knowledge, but also the truth, also a sense of adventure, going in and uncovering these things. So it takes that to uncover something that's not only highly protected and highly guarded for many reasons, that entire area is a vortex chakra point for the whole planet,
Yeah,
let alone the structures that are there, the history,
yeah,
the
yeah,
technology. Those pyramids were not used as a home thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. This was
yeah,
major electroconductivity, free energy devices. So that technology is lying dormant still. So we know we can let the humans gawk at it now, but we can't let too curious of humans get too frisky here because of what they could uncover and what that could mean for the entire world. Before we go into the work that you have specifically embarked on, I want to touch a little bit on what has come up in the past year around the pyramids and what is going on underneath of the pyramids
okay,
when the, archaeologists and scientists came out and talked about these huge caverns and these huge devices basically that they found going miles underneath of the pyramids. I just want to touch on your thoughts about all of that before we go into specifically all the things that you have found.
yeah. Well, the when Zahi Was was on the Matt Beal Limitless podcast, um, Beal mentioned he was going to give Zahi a couple $1 million to for a robot to go into the big. It was founded in 2017 by the Muon Scans, the Scan Pyramids team. And they have already been successful in that the first cavity that they said would be there based on muon scans, they put an endoscopic camera through the chevrons on the original entrance to the Great Pyramid. And sure enough, there's a dimensioned room where the muons had said there's a void, there was a void. Well, there's a much bigger void that there's no place to put an endoscopic camera through that's above the Grand Gallery. And so on the Matt Beal Limitless podcast, Zahi said in 2026 they're gonna do that, and he's announced that at several of these talks he's given recently too, that something big is coming. So I'm going to tell you right now, people that are watching Ascending the Matrix are going to get it before you see it from him. I'm going to tell you just what that camera is going to look like, what you're going to see. You're going to see the Grand Gallery. Okay, so if you've been in the Great Pyramid, you go up the first ascending passage, you duck down. Then when you get to the Grand Gallery, 28 feet high, this beautiful corbelled ceiling that you ascend up, one of the most amazing rooms in the world. Well, Jean-Pierre Houdin, the great architect who has studied the Great Pyramid probably more than any other person on the face of the earth right now. If you could take into one room the people who have studied the Great Pyramid the most, that have it in their mind, they know every passage and stuff, he would be in the room and he'd be probably the leader in the room. Matt Simpson from Ancient Architects would be another man that would be in that room. Doug from History for Granite would be in that room. These are people that have studied the Great Pyramid, know it backwards and forward. And so Jean-Pierre Houdin says that one of the purposes of the Grand Gallery, besides esoteric purposes and sound purposes and stuff, was to be the platform to get the large granite blocks into the King's Chamber. They used a counterweight system, and that was the ramp they used. And those notches, the niches that are all the way up as you go up, were used just like I've seen tugboats pulled through the Panama Canal. They're used as like things to stop gaps to pull those stones up there. Well, that got the stones up to the King's Chamber. What about the granite stones that are in the relieving chambers up above the King's Chamber? They had to get up there too. That's what that second gallery is going to show. So whatever, and I do think it's going to show more. My friend Robert Grant had a vision that there was a throne there, a granite throne. And he called it, he's called it from a couple of years ago. I got this vision. He called it the Magnus Opum, the great work. And so it probably is going to be something amazing. But what it's going to look like it's gonna look just like the Grand Gallery. But if there's a granite throne, to me, one of the reasons that's huge is because the pyramids are all, except for one, on the west side of the Nile. It's where the pharaoh goes to die or to go to the next life. It's where the sun sets. And so a throne would be on the east side. That's where the administrative government is. That's where the king rules from earth. It's sort of like Horus and Osiris. Horus is on earth, Osiris is in heaven. So Horus is
Yeah.
reigning on earth. So, that's where a throne would be. It wouldn't be in a pyramid, where's the place you go to the next life. So if there is a throne, that Robert Grant saw that by vision. So John Pierre Houdin, the architect, tells us what it's going to look like. Robert Grant saw what's in there, and sometimes he says the Arcturians talked to him, and so the
Yes.
Arcturians were around when the pyramid was being built. So they've
Yes.
actually seen it. They didn't need an endoscopic camera, so it could be
Mhm.
that they're channeling to him, uh, you know, what's going to happen. But it's going to be a dimensioned room. It's not going to be some creepy void or just a industrial thing. It's going to have the very chiseled look of the Grand Gallery, and there may be up at the room at the top a granite throne. So not a
Mm.
golden throne, not a throne filled with jewels and lapis lazuli and agate and stuff.
Right.
It's going to be a granite throne. But that will be highly symbolic again because it's not like a sarcophagus like everywhere else, like having to do with death or it's got like ruling.
Yes.
And so I tend to think that it's going to have something to do with ruling from the next life, or even because the
Yeah.
Grand Gallery is like where you go in this life to make it to the next life, but then eventually you get to the next life. And,
Yeah.
I think that could have something to do with that. But Hawass has made some pretty, strong statements about how amazing it's going to be. So I don't know if he's actually gotten the endoscopic camera in there and just hasn't told us, or if he knows
Mhm.
they're going to get it there. But the fact that Robert Grant has called it for years, the Magnus Opum, I do think it's going to be something more than just because the other things the Great Pyramid reveals, which are astounding, are usually done through measure. You have to know some math and
Yeah.
you have to be able to interpret it. And it's not like, oh, look at the gold, look at the
Right.
silver, look at the gems, the way they're marked, look at the beautiful strokes of the pen. It's nothing like that. The usual way we can perceive magnificence and beauty. It's going to be,
Yes.
it's perhaps, but I do think it's possible that there will be some element of that which we've always looked for. Where's that gold? Where are those jewels? Where's something? I do
Yeah.
think there could be something that will be that the carnal eye could perceive as
Yeah.
valuable, but
Yeah.
I'm not as sure about that, but I just think that's possible. So we'll see. 2026 next year, it's coming. Supposedly, we'll know.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about Thoth. Because in many traditions or in many schools of thought, Thoth was the architect and the mastermind behind there's the Thoth god or the scribe, and then there is the actual serpent or Anunnaki being who was Thoth, who was also Quetzalcoatl or Hootie, Judy, I can't remember the name of it, the African version of him, or in Hermes Trismegistus. What are your thoughts about these different chambers, like the halls of Amenti, or these different chambers that are said to be deep underneath the pyramids, where Thoth is keeping an avatar of himself or a physical body
Yeah.
preserved there? Like, what are some of your thoughts on some of that before we
Well,
go into
I,
your
I'm
PowerPoint?
I'm very skeptical about those, even of the structures that and my friend Robert Grant has joined that group now. He's the fourth member. You've got Biondi and Malagna and Armando May and Robert Grant now. He's joined them. And I told him we had to talk about this recently. I said, because he's telling me, Larry, this is real science. I said, no, I don't believe it. So I just have a difference of opinion. I think that there has been, some uh, digging that's been deep underneath the pyramid that never came across anything like that. Their technology has not been proven by anybody. It's proprietary. They keep saying that they're going to make it so it can go beyond them, so it can truly be third party tested, but it hasn't been. And everybody needs to know that, so
Yeah,
it's still
yeah,
noise. It's still noise that they're
yeah,
interpreting to be meaningful, but that noise has still to this day has not been uh, seconded by a third party. It hasn't, because they admit their software is proprietary, and until they make it so, because
yeah,
any scientific experiment should be replicable. That's the very nature of it, and theirs can't be, because they're the only ones that have it. So anyways, so I'm skeptical about those things. But when you mentioned the Anunnaki being, and your question showed more got deeper than any other question I've heard, because usually when you get into this, you know, I don't know, it just seems like people don't go to where you did,
Yeah.
because you're right. In the first blush, Thoth is mythical. So Thoth didn't build the Great Pyramid. Thoth is a mythical being who I think is based on Enoch, who is a real person.
Yes.
Jason
Yes.
Brashears, who has the huge channel, I've got a has a huge channel archaics and has the huge followers. He's written a book, the Scriptures of Giza, and he has shown that there's a tremendous amount of writing about Enoch in the ancient world, all kinds of ancient writings. The Bible part is just uh, is just a very small part. So he was the great polymath, a real polymath. I think inch comes from Enoch, because anciently there are no vowels, and so if you take the
Yeah.
vowels out of inch, you take the
Uh-huh.
vowels out of Enoch, they're the same thing. And inch is the basic measurement. It's the
Yeah.
unit of measurement. Somebody is calling me, and I'm putting them to voicemail, and they keep calling back. So I might have to.
Tell them we're
You know,
busy talking about
yeah, it's like,
really
I
cool
mean,
shit.
it's silent,
Um,
so I can just ignore it. I guess
yeah.
I got my phone in silent, but once you put them to voicemail, usually that stops. So, but then you went to, oh, but what if Thoth is the Anunnaki being? And so, in other
Well,
words,
and
now
and,
we're
and
we're
I
now
don't
we're
know
out,
if
we're
the
beyond
Enoch
myth,
you're
and
speaking about is related to the book of Enoch that was left out of the Bible or is one of the missing books of the Bible, but I know Enoch is a really missing key in a lot of our the ascension and a lot of our ancient knowledge that has been kept from
well,
us.
I won't say it's a missing book, because everything is culturally related, and it is in the Ethiopian, by both in the Jewish and the Christian traditions that come out of Ethiopia. The Book of Enoch was in their scriptures, but in the
Yeah,
West it wasn't, and so I won't say it's missing, because there's not a million books in the Ethiopian Bible either. So you could talk
right,
about the missing books, because a lot of books that are considered apocryphal books were not in the Ethiopian scriptures. So
right,
so you can't say what's missing. You have to say what is in there. You're making a judgment that maybe be unfair to say something is missing, but Jude quotes from the Book of Enoch in the New Testament, and so in a sense the Bible is putting its stamp on the approval of that book. But there's so many different books of Enoch, and Enoch did not write the Book of Enoch. So
right. Yeah,
what's in the Book of Enoch, which is true, and I think a lot of it is true,
yeah,
comes from ultimately, I think, sources that passed down through oral legend and other things from Enoch, and were preserved and made it into the Ethiopian canon. And
yeah.
so I do think that it can be a helpful book, but it's not the kind of Hall of Records, Halls of Amenti kind of thing. It's basically like reading Genesis.
Right,
It's
right.
Adam did
And
this,
then you
and
have the works of Zechariah Sitchin and the Emerald Tablets, which I don't resonate with, and I know there's a lot of distortion around it, where it talks about Thoth being the creator of the pyramids. He's the creator of Atlantis, and Kem, which is Egypt, is a Atlantean colony, which I do believe. But when you go back enough, basically, the guy who claims to be Thoth, the person, the architect, is the offspring of Anunnaki beings. So, and that would not be in service of humanity. So there's just a lot of distortions. You used the term pyramidiate earlier, which I really
yeah.
liked. And so that sort of makes me feel like there might even be some intentional distortion or confusion around Egypt and these pyramids that are often put out by people or mainstream science to confuse or conceal the truth from people. And you're sort of the threat to that sort of psyop or program that's happening. So, can you tell me what it is that you have found in Egypt that you feel is really special that we need to know? And please feel free to share your screen if you feel called.
I'm going to tell you something you didn't learn in eighth grade, you didn't learn in high school. It's not going to be in Wikipedia, but it's absolutely true, because the metrologists have shown it. All systems of measure, name any, Sumerian, Chinese, anyone you can think of, Greek, Roman, the imperial system, they're all connected. They're not like, because if evolution was true, then the Russians would have one system of measure that
Right.
was
Yeah.
unrelated to the Chinese system of measure, which would be unrelated to the American system of measure, the British system of measure. That's not true. They're all related by whole number fractional values, 6 to 7, 175 to 176, 24 to 25. All There's only one way that can be true, that all systems of measure go back to an aboriginal source. That's the only, there's only, That's the only way it can be true. And number is sacred. In the Supreme Court, you've got scales in our United States of America. There's a picture of scales. Why? Because your measurement has to be
Right.
just.
Hmm.
Measurement is sacred and holy. Every society
Yeah.
protects its foot, values its, and so number is sacred and measure is sacred. And the fact that all numbering systems in the world are connected, I could give a number of examples, but I've done, programs on it. So there is an Aboriginal source. And so what is Thoth known as? What is
The
Hermes
scribe.
known as? What is
Yeah.
Mercury known as? What is Enoch known as? The
Messengers. Yeah.
father of metrology.
Yeah.
Somebody started it. And
Hmm.
all the systems measures are geodetic. They're related to the size of the Earth. The
Yeah.
meters, the
Yeah.
1/10 millionth part of the polar, quadrant.
Yeah.
The inches,
There's a
the
lot
one
of
five hundred
purpose and
millionth part of the
intention in
polar
it.
polar diameter. They're connected to the Earth. So the measures that we use, and that wouldn't have to be true if I just invented. If it's really true that, well, the king said this is an inch, the king's foot was this long. If that was true, there's no way there'd be a relationship between the
Yeah.
foot and the Earth that it's used on. But the
Right.
fact that all these systems of measures are connected to the size of planet Earth shows they were designed
Hmm.
for this Earth, and
Yeah.
they're all related.
Yeah.
So science is so. I think that the Egyptians built the pyramids, but they tapped into a wisdom that goes back even before the Egyptian mystery schools, although the Egyptian mystery schools included the teachings of Enoch, Thoth,
Yeah.
and so that's my take.
Yeah. And, there are channels, people out there who claim that the pyramids are 8,000 years old, and then there's others who claim they're hundreds of thousands of years
That's right.
old.
Yeah,
And so we're going to hold all of those as possibilities and know that maybe that's true in different past timelines. There's different, time works differently now. You've got a book about the speed of light and how it relates to the Great Pyramids, but also you showed me a picture of the Giza Plateau. And I am so fascinated by Billy Carson's work. I don't agree with everything he brings forth about Thoth, but the way that he has brought through many measurements, kind of like your unicorn or the other one that's sort of in a spherical shape, that really shows how intentional and how purposeful every single one of these megaliths were in
yeah,
where
and
they
and
are
so they show, and
planted.
so relevant to what you said there as to whether it was 400,000 years ago or 4,000 years ago. It's amazing, whichever it is. Whoever built it,
That's
they did an
right.
amazing thing. And
Yeah.
so I've got a paper on academia called Rosslyn Chapel to Stonehenge. And this is getting a tremendous amount of discussion from academics.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
very simple paper that I wrote. You can see in the big graphic there, the distance from Rosslyn Chapel, this amazing chapel, to Stonehenge is 1,732,050 feet. That is exactly the value of the square root of 3 times a million.
Wow.
So that just, to me can't be by chance. And this led to all kinds of things being said. So it's a million uh, times root 3 feet from the Roslyn Chapel to Stonehenge. So one person pointed out in the discussion that's a million royal cubits. So now you
Wow.
got these two
Exactly a
amazing
million.
millions. Like that's very hard for one measure to be. I discovered that between the Heliopolis obelisk and the step pyramid, that it's the speed of light in both
Yeah.
186,000 miles per hour, but also 299 million meters per second by two different measurements. So it's very
Yeah.
rare to
Yeah.
find something
For
like
it to
that. And here
line
it
up
is.
that way.
And then
Yeah.
also, if it's used as a diameter, so if you take that line from Roslyn Chapel to Stonehenge to be a diameter, then the circumference is 2 million megalithic yards.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
unbelievable, those three
Hmm.
things. And
Yeah.
so there's just all this discussion going. And I just was thinking all I did was find the measurement, but that led a bunch of people to see that, gosh, root 3, because there's the question, well, did they know root 3? Because supposedly the Greeks are the ones that found out root 2, root 3, they found out pi, and previous peoples didn't know that. And then how could, this ancient structure so anyways,
Well, I
so
definitely know I can feel into what they were doing. Not only is there a reason when you mirror the cosmos and you mirror the measurements like that, you are it's like as above, so below, but also it's like a big scavenger hunt that the ancients left for us current humans
Okay, so one of the scavenger hunts I went into because of this, because of the things that were said, because I put it out for discussion. Sometimes I just post things on academia, but you can, if you want to, open it to discussion.
to
And I
discuss.
decided to
Yeah,
do that with this paper. I had no idea of the robust, comments that it would lead to and discoveries really. So this is what led me to, instead of going out and measuring things at Stonehenge and thing, I'm going to go inward. So the Philosopher's Stone was could be a stone like this, a physical stone to help you transmute, metal to, to iron to gold or whatever. But
right.
it's also a symbol, and often given like this, the
Yes.
Philosopher's Stone. Okay, and so the idea in this Ernst Mayr drawing is he's drawing like the Philosopher's Stone onto a map.
I
And that's what
see.
I've always known, that these symbols that you can just study at your desk with sacred geometry are connected to these monuments we're talking
That's
about. So
right.
so
Mm,
here so what I let's take the you know what, and I think I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna uh I'm gonna see if I think it'll look better if I share a different screen. Let me go over here
sure.
and go to this desktop over here and share that. Okay. So uh let me see if it, okay, so yeah. Okay, so can you see that now, the blank
Yes.
screen?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's the Philosopher's Stone, the sigil, the symbol of it, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's the circumference. Okay, and there's the triangle. It's an equilateral triangle. And then I use a modified Philosopher's Stone. Then there's a circle within the equilateral triangle. The median of that equilateral triangle is there, and then the full diameter of the larger gold circle is
Yeah.
there, and you can take the diameter of the inner circle if you want to. Okay, so let's take Ernst Mayer's idea. If the equilateral triangle, if you let that be one, if you let that be one for all these measures, then that the black line in the middle equals √3/2. Okay, then the that circle right there that I just drew in there, so I
Uh-huh.
drew another circle in there, that equals 2.72 megalithic yards.
Hmm.
Actually, it equals 2.72 because we're just talking if the side is one, it's unitary. But 2.72 is the number of feet in a megalithic yard. It's absolutely an amazing. So talking about taking this symbol and taking it out to monuments in the real world, that's the basic measurement that Alexander Thom from Oxford discovered. All the ancient monuments were built by. They were built by not a system we use today, the megalithic yard, and it's built right into this Philosopher's Stone. Then if you take
Wow.
that circle right there, the large orange one,
Uh-huh.
that's 2 pi times √3. Okay, then if you take the whole diameter of the orange circle, that's 2 over √3, which which
Right.
is incredible. Is if you notice, it's reciprocal of the
Of the
black
root.
diameter line, which is
Right.
absolutely amazing that they're reciprocals. Then if you
Uh-huh.
take that inner circle there, it's gamma. That's a modern constant. That was only discovered recently. And here it is. It's been forever in the Philosopher's Stone. Gamma, Euler's constant, I think it's 0.57735. That's what the length of that is. So built into the Philosopher's Stone is this modern constant. And
Yeah.
there's other ones too. So you take Ernst Mayer's idea now that these are meant to be related to actual things on the earth. It's not just you're playing with little sacred geometry at your desk. Okay, so let's look at that. So if you let the side one be 330 feet, so let's say one, so we're going to use 330. So all those measurements I just gave, we're going to multiply by 330 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
So 330 feet is the height of the lighthouse of Alexandria, and it's the inner circle at Avebury, the major stone circle that's near Stonehenge, 330 feet. And interesting, it's 330 meters for the Avebury Henge, but we're going to use 330 feet as the unitary measure. Okay. So when we do that, the 2 pi √3 orange circle is 440 megalithic yards. And 440 is the base of the Great Pyramid in royal cubits. Okay. Then if we take
Wow.
the green line, 2 over √3, it equals 140 megalithic yards, and the length of the Sphinx in royal
Wow.
cubits is 140. So now you got the Sphinx, you got the
Wow.
Great Pyramid, you got Avebury, you got the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Okay, then if you take, I just added a line there. If you see the blue line
Yeah.
at the bottom of
Uh-huh.
the Philosopher's Square, take that one. That equals, oh, that's not 140 megalithic yards. I made a mistake there. That is 35 megalithic yards. I'm going to change that slide right now, just in case I show this in the future. I'm going to change that. So that is not supposed to say 140 megalithic yards. That is actually 35. I made this just for your show here. So
Sure.
uh, I don't know if I can get quickly now to that point here. Let's see if I can get back to that point real quick, because I do want to. I'm learning this myself. What I'm doing for you, I just did today. I did it for this
Yeah.
show. I wanted to see it myself. I know that
Yeah.
the Philosopher's Stone is, this is a tremendous amount of ancient wisdom that I'm sharing here with your viewers, and I just learned this myself, and so I'm sharing what I just learned. This is on my desk now, and I want to see. I'm going over this because I want to see it myself. Okay,
Yeah.
so we just came up with the blue circle down there, and that is, now this time I got it right. It's 35 megalithic yards, which is the width of the Sphinx. So you
Uh-huh.
got Stonehenge in here a couple times. You got the Sphinx in here a couple times, because I think the Sphinx is the key. I wrote a book about the Sphinx, and I say the Sphinx is the key to the other monuments. So that's why it gives both the length and the width of the Sphinx here, I think. Okay, then if you take the uh, whatever color pink circle that is, that's 330 megalithic yards of that's the original. You can do any Google search, they're going to tell you that's the original Stonehenge. The Stonehenge one, the first one is,
Yeah.
and notice it's 300. So if side one is 330 feet, then that pink circle is 330 megalithic yards.
Wow.
And that again is the circumference, or is it the diameter of the Stonehenge henge? It's the
Yeah.
diameter. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Then the black line that's the diameter of the pinkish circle there is 105 megalithic yards, which is the circle of the 56 Aubrey holes, a major measurement at Stonehenge.
Uh-huh.
So you
Wow.
got Stonehenge in here a couple times. You've got the Sphinx in here a couple times. So that drawing of Ernst Mayr saying you take the Philosopher's Stone, but it's connected to things on the real map.
That's
It is
right.
absolutely amazing. So they were saying that they knew, in a sense, they're saying, well, yeah, we knew Euler's constant because they knew all of the things that were going on with this. And then, so the reason that I just had that line over there is this is what I was just working on. I didn't have time to get ready for this program. As a result of my work from Rosslyn Chapel to Stonehenge and all the things that came to me, I realized, what if you make that median the one? All these things I just gave you were
Yeah.
if you make the equilateral triangle side the one. And that's what usually is done in the Philosopher's Stone. But I got this idea because so many discoveries were made by these metrologists who were feeding into my paper from that line. And I got another amazing screen that I didn't have time for this program. If you do take that as the one, that yields a whole nother set of revelations that
Wow.
get into modern constants and stuff. It gets
Yeah.
into yeah, it's like amazing. So this is my friend Bob Criley, who's a very accomplished engineer used on freelance projects by major companies. He had a dream that the passages in the Great Pyramid would yield the speed of light. So just like Newton watching an apple fall from a tree led him to discover something, when Bob Criley told me that, I went to the Great Pyramid to see if his dream was true, that somehow the passages would indicate the speed of light. And I found it was true, and I wrote a book about it. And so
Wow.
that's one thing I can talk about in a second. I discovered a sacred circle at Giza that's absolutely
The
amazing.
sacred
I just
circle,
still
that's it.
I still can't believe that I found this and what it indicates. I'll hopefully maybe show you that. This is another thing. This is just absolutely amazing. Maybe I can show you this real quick too. I discovered a unicorn in Scotland. Scotland, the national mascot. So I think it's probably the only country in the world that has a mythical being as a mascot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually found a unicorn. I mean, it's real. It's real. It's just, I still pinch myself. I can't believe I did. And I have this little icon on my desk here because I had to remind myself, because I don't have a polymath mind for
Yeah.
a photographic memory of just how I did it. So maybe I'll share that in a second. And then the
Yeah.
mysterious staircase out in the Egyptian desert that sometimes you see people. I actually went there and scientifically studied it and made some amazing discoveries. So those
Wow.
are a couple of things that
Look at that.
came into my mind. So here's my website, greatpyramid.org, and people can, check out a lot of things. A lot of my discoveries are on there. The speed of light in the Great Pyramid is, I think I've got a link there to, well, anyways, so here's that book is published in a scientific journal. It was accepted for publication. You can see here, Larry Pahl from Crossville, Tennessee. The speed of light numbers revealed by the length in meters of the Great Pyramid chambers and passage systems. It's in the volume 12, number 2, April 2024 issue of Archaeological Discovery. And it's also a book that I showed you that's available on Amazon. So just do a
Yeah.
search for the speed of light in the Great Pyramid.
Wow.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about metrology. Uh, let me show you in a nutshell. Here's in a
Yeah.
nutshell the book. It's all based on solid measurements, but you start at the bottom of the pyramid. You go 29 meters across the subterranean chamber. Then it's 97 meters up to the original entrance. Okay, then when you go to the first ascending passage and the grand gallery and all the way through to the king's chamber, that's 92 meters. Then if you come down to the queen's chamber and go take the queen's chamber passage, that's 45 meters. And then a close-up of the king's chamber, and you see there that it's 8 meters from the entrance to the king's chamber to the sarcophagus. So there we have 29, 97, 92, 45, and 8. Those are the numbers in the speed of light.
Wow.
Those are all the major passages: 29, 97, 92, 4, 5, 8 in meters. Oh, the
I
Egyptians didn't
know.
know the
That's
meters. Oh,
wild.
really? Well, maybe the Egyptians didn't, but the guy who designed the Great Pyramid did. And there
Did,
it is.
yes.
Okay, so that's in a
Whoever
nutshell.
designed all of this, we don't need to get into that today. Everyone can have their own opinion on that. Obviously could see multiple measurement systems in like a meet this person could obviously come up with the different measurements based off each measurement, like someone who can multiply large amounts in their head very quickly, like my dad. This mind was obviously able to see the different types of measurements contained within each other measurement, and that again would take what you're calling a polymath to be able to hold all of that information and to be this precise, because there's a reason that they're being this precise.
And here's the thing about that being that precise. And this is like an asterisk that you don't see until you read the book. Um, every one of these measurements is averaged, but all of them follow rules of averaging. So for instance, if the passage was 28.9, what is that? Well, based on averaging, it's 29. What if it's
Right, right,
92.4? It's 92. So I didn't jerry-rig any one of them. Like if it would have been, like, take the blue measurement, 97 meters. If it would have been 97.9 meters, this wouldn't work because
right.
97.9 is rounded to 98. So I
That's
used
right.
I used the simple laws, and every one of these had to be averaged. There wasn't one that was exact. So this is my belief based on the number of places, because I have an appendix in the book about many places that the speed of light is in the Great Pyramid. So the ways I've seen sages place the speed of light in other monuments and things,
Uh-huh.
it can be exact. So in a sense, they were saying, well, this is not the most important thing. So we just let the average of meters be here because, yeah, it's the speed of light. We're not showing off. We're showing we know it. There's other more important things in the
And
pyramid, but
also
there is
using
this.
it as a guide.
Yeah, maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
just as simple because that'll be like a mnemonic device to remember something.
Hmm.
So all the major passages are used there, except for, and I even have some theories about what'll happen when we finally get those other passages up above there. So just to show how the polymaths could work, here's a top view of the king's chamber. Okay, so it's a double square. It's 10 cubits by 20 cubits. That's the king's chamber. Okay. Well, if you take the perimeter of the king's chamber, which is 60 cubits, 10 plus 10 plus 20 plus 20. Oh, guess what? 60 cubits is 10 pi meters. They knew pi and they knew the meter.
Wow.
They were encoding pi
Yeah.
in the meter there, 10 pi meters exactly. They knew
Wow.
pi, they knew the meter. Okay, now this is an elevation view of the wall. So now we're not looking at the floor, we're looking at the wall of the king's chamber. Okay, so we already know that that's 20 cubits, the length. So we might think that the height is going to be an even 10 or 15 because it was an even 10. No, the height is 11.18. Well, why did they do that? Why would they have such an odd number for the height, but the floor was so regular? Because the diagonal is exactly 12
Only 12.
meters.
Wow. Wow.
So they're encoding, we knew the meter, okay? We knew the meter,
Wow.
okay? And then, so just a couple things to show what I was talking about before. So there's the meter, there's the cubit, and there's the foot, represented according to how long they actually are, okay? The meter and the cubit are exactly 5 feet. And so you add the foot, and you've got the fathom, which is 6 feet.
Mm.
Okay, and then the megalithic yard just happens to be the cubit plus the foot. So all these systems of measurement are connected. That's just a quick little
Wow.
thing there, the cubit and the
Hmm.
foot. A 1
Yeah.
meter pendulum swings out 1 cubit in 30 degrees. So that shows the relationship between the cubit and the meter. 1 meter pendulum swinging at 30 degrees swings out a 1 cubit. Okay. So, there's a 1 meter cubit and you swing out 30 degrees. And so that's going to be
Wow.
one royal cubit. All right. So
Yes.
these systems of measure, all ancient measuring systems are connected by integral fractions. So I've written
Mhm.
a book about the Sphinx, speed of light in the Great Pyramid, and the Sphinx. You know, all dimensions of a pyramid can be found if you know its base and its height. So
Yeah.
if you take two sphinxes, it's exactly the height of the Great Pyramid. And
And
for the base, if you take the sphinx times pi, it's the base of the Great Pyramid. So the Great
whoa,
Pyramid is embedded. The dimensions of the
in the
of the Great Pyramid are
Sphinx.
embedded in the Sphinx. So I get into that kind of stuff in my book.
But what do you feel about those who claim, not claim, but some who claim to even know that there was a second Sphinx that was either disintegrated by water or torn down, but that there were two Sphinxes in Egypt and that it was
Well,
placed
that's one of the
somewhere?
things I get in trouble for. I've climbed on the second Sphinx, and the Egyptian government is adamant that that's not the second Sphinx, but it is the second Sphinx.
Okay.
It's just a little bit north of Kenkawes, and I show the dream stela at between the paws of the Sphinx shows two Sphinxes facing in opposite direction.
Yeah.
The Great Sphinx faces the east, obviously. The Sphinx north of Kenkawes faces the west. It's
Uh-huh.
got the same dimensions as the one. It's just eroded more because
Right.
the Great Sphinx has not only been repaired about 20 times in modern times by Zahi Hawass 1,000 years ago. We know that Amenhotep, secured it and renovated it so that the
Yeah.
Sphinx would not look anywhere near. It's a fragile sandstone and limestone
Right.
carving.
Right.
It would be eroded too if it hadn't been
Right.
renovated
I
many
see. I
times. Both.
see.
So there is a second Sphinx of Giza, and one of the proofs I do besides the ones I just mentioned, the Sphinx is obvious. The Great Sphinx is obviously next to the causeway of the second pyramid. The second Sphinx is right next to the causeway of the Menkaure pyramid. They're
Yeah.
both of the Sphinxes, one facing east, one's facing west. So to me, it's
Yeah.
a slam dunk. There is a second, but for some reason, the Egyptian government is just dead set against that not being the second Sphinx. As a matter of fact, my friend Dr. Retta, who had worked for 30 years for antiquities, he was at Hawara. He discovered a gold mask at Hawara, like King Tut's. He was getting ready to try and uncover the labyrinth that's there, and then Zahi Hawass wanted to take credit for it, so he wouldn't do it.
Right.
He was fired from antiquities because he said on national TV that Sphinx that I'm talking about was the second Sphinx because it's his
Yeah.
discovery. It's his
Wow.
discovery. They actually fired a man who had been a loyal antiquities guy because they don't like the idea that that's the second Sphinx. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. But if you
Yeah.
just to show
There's
the placement of
reasons.
the Sphinx here, you got if you take the distance between Khafre and the Great Pyramid is 1, then the distance between the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx is phi. So there's just
Wow.
another indication that this is, there's amazing things going on here. It's 200
Uh-huh.
pi meters from the Khafre to the beginning of the Sphinx. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Okay, so well, I don't need to get into this. Let me show you something else here. Uh, well, I've got things here on my book about this right here, the Orion correlation theory.
Yeah.
That's as above, so below. You can see from the drawing I had my artist. We've got Orion up in the sky. Well, most people are aware that the three belt stars of Orion correlate with the three pyramids of Giza.
Yes.
And that's the Orion correlation theory that Robert Bauval had, and that's all they have. And I just thought that's ridiculous. What if my wife says, well, what was it like being interviewed by Chrys? And I just say, well, he had a really nice belt. Well, what is his
I
philosophy? I don't know. He
know.
had a nice belt. Well, what kind of hat was he wearing? I don't know. I kept looking at his belt. The
Yeah.
Orion correlation theory is not an Orion correlation theory. It's a belt theory. I'm the only one I know of that actually went to all the places on Egyptian soil where the Orion
To
stars come. So
connect to
I
the
did a
whole
real Orion
constellation.
correlation theory. Robert
Yeah.
Robert Pahl wanted to do it, but he never could figure it out. He never found
Yeah.
out how to do it. He wanted to have just more than he wanted to have more of the stars of Orion. He just didn't know how to do it, and I
Yeah.
did. So who's known by their belt? So that's one of my books. That's the
Very
belt
cool.
theory. And what about all the other stars in the Orion? What about the stars in the lion skin? Where do those
That's right.
correspond on the Egyptian soil? What about the Orion Nebula, the beautiful Orion Nebula? Where does that
Uh-huh.
correspond on Egyptian soil? That's what my book's about. That's
Wow.
what my
Very
book's about.
cool.
So that was like a travelogue. Uh, and so uh, here's a book I wrote uh, called Anatomy and of Egyptian Adventure. And I had some of my tourists that traveling with me write some sections of it, but mostly it's my discoveries there. So if you look at the contents, Tomb of the Birds, the Fibonacci origin, the Lost Pyramid, the Mysterious Staircase, Orion's Belt, the Djedefre Satellite Pyramid, the seven mysterious step pyramids of Egypt, the
Yeah.
Sacred Circle at Giza. Okay, let's look at that one. All right, so you take the station stones at Stonehenge, and if you point from station stone 93 through 91, it points to the Great Pyramid. Okay, so
Wow.
and
Look at
then
that.
so you can fly on Google Earth and go there and see that you know there you go. Okay,
Wow.
so if there's the pointing to the Great Pyramid. So if you take the measurement of that 5, 12, 13 triangle on the station stones at Stonehenge, that's 7,920 inches. Okay, well, guess what? The Great Pyramid side is 7,920 inches. So
Wow.
I led us tour to Stonehenge because I found so many connections between the Great Pyramid and Stonehenge. So guess what? Guess what? If you take planet Earth, 7,920 miles.
Wow.
Both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid are showing they knew the size of the planet Earth long before the
Yes.
Greeks supposedly were the first ones to discover it. They plainly are
Oh
showing they
God.
knew this.
Yeah.
Both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid indicate by their precise constructions they knew the size of planet Earth long before the Greeks. And look at this. You've all seen that they gather at the midsummer solstice and they look
Yep.
at the to the through the heel stone to the summer solstice right there. Well, guess what? If you point to north, they're all looking to the summer solstice sunrise, but here's the line that goes to north. And guess what that angle is? It's the slope angle of the Great Pyramid.
Oh wow.
So, they're connected. Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid are connected. Okay, now
Yeah.
here's the discovery I made. It's
Yeah.
absolutely
What is
unbelievable.
this?
Okay, so this is a humble shaft that nobody, it's like a circle within a square. So all the ancient mysteries, circles, heaven, earth is, the square. So you got this mystery of circle and square, but nobody knows what this is. It's this, humble little shaft next to the Coffrey Causeway. Well, I did some measuring here with my friend Will Wire, and we did some work, and I discovered there's the circle. If you use that humble shaft as the center, that's the circle that it makes. And so
Wow.
it's 888 feet to the four major monuments that are around it there: the Sphinx, Concaways, the Khafre Pyramid, and the
So the
southeast
the
corner of
shaft
the
is in the
Great Pyramid.
center of this circle here, correct?
Yeah, so the shaft is right there where the green
Wow.
star is. It's right there. Now look at this. Okay, so there's 504 ancient cubits. Instead of saying 880 feet, it's 504. The radius is 504 ancient cubits. Okay, so that circle goes through the Great Sphinx, Kenkawes, the Khafre Pyramid. So it's obviously intentional. Those are the four major monuments in the area. It touches every one of them. Khafre on the
Yeah.
east side, exactly. The Great Pyramid, the southeast corner. The Great Sphinx right through the middle. Kenkawes right through the middle. Okay, now
Yeah.
look at this. So I just told you that. The circumference is 3,168 ancient cubits. Okay, let's look at Stonehenge. All right. So the outer circle there, the Sarsen circle, is 316.8 feet, measured by Flinders Petrie. That's the measurement he gives, 3,168 at Stonehenge. Okay, there's a connection there. And if you take the Bluestone circle, it's 50.4 feet. Oh, 504, 504.
Wow.
All right. Then you take the Great Pyramid. Okay. The perimeter of the Great Pyramid is 31,680 inches because I
Wow.
told you it's 7,920 on the side. Multiply by four, you get 31,680. Okay, and guess what? The top of the Great Pyramid, I did this measurement myself. It's 504 inches. So you got the
Wow.
3,168 and the 504. Okay, now look at this. Planet Earth. You put a square around planet Earth, and it's 31,680 miles.
Yeah.
So you got not only these big monuments that everybody knows about, Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid, you have this humble virtual circle, which I discovered doing
Yeah.
the exact same thing that these monuments, which are so big and everybody goes as tourist attractions.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found something that nobody sees, nobody knows about it, but there it is, built into the Giza Plateau.
What do you think this was? What do you think was there? Do you think maybe there was a structure there that was almost acting as a transducer, kind of
Well, there
holding
might
all
have
of
been
that?
an obelisk there at one time, but it doesn't matter because John Michel, the father of really the received metrological tradition, says that the first point of sacred geometry is the center of the circle.
Yeah.
Now you never see it; it's humble. Like you look at a circle, you always see the circumference. Oh, look, a circle. You're not saying that because you see the center. You're saying it because you see the circumference. But the
Right.
circumference is meaningless and impossible without the center.
Without a
The
center.
center is it's like a symbol of divine power. It's humble, but it's powerful. It's the center of
Yeah.
everything, but it never gets the attention. So the creator goes unrecognized oftentimes,
Wow. Wow.
is the way I look at that. And then you got 7,920 inches on the side. You've got 7,920
Yeah.
miles as prime. So you got all that. All right. So 5, 12, 13 triangles are amazing. Okay. So I went to the Durham obelisk because my wife had done student teaching when she was in school before I married her. So when we went to the UK, one of the places we stopped was Durham, and I found this Durham obelisk, which nobody knows about. It's in the middle. It's kind of hidden, and it's a long story.
Yeah.
But so I found the Durham obelisk. Okay, so here's the thing. I already showed you the station stones at Stonehenge, and the perimeter is 7,920 inches. Okay, we looked at that. That's a 5, 12, 13 triangle. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so start at Stonehenge, go west to Lundy Island, which means the island of the right angle. And so go north from Lundy Island to the Presley Hills, which are the source of the bluestone stones at Stonehenge. Okay. And then you go back
Wow.
to Stonehenge. That is a 5, 12, 13 triangle. It's exactly 2,500 times the size of the Stonehenge 5, 12, 13 triangle. So 5, 12, 13 triangles are plainly a thing. Okay. The American dollar bill, that's a 5, 12, 13 triangle. Okay.
Uh-huh.
These
Wow.
are okay. This is unbelievable. The three capitals of the UK, London, Cardiff, Wales, and Edinburgh,
Uh-huh.
form a 5, 12, 13 triangle. Now, how does that happen? The three capitals are set out in a
Wow.
5, 12, 13 triangle. Who does that? It's an amazing
Mm-hmm.
5, 12. So here's my discovery. Okay, so I because of my wife doing work at Durham, I I discovered the Durham, and I say discovered. It's unbelievable. The number of people that have lived all their life in Durham. I talked with cab drivers, people that work in hotels. They had never
Yeah.
heard of the Durham obelisk. It's right there. It's
Wow.
been so the Durham obelisk was hidden away in Durham, and Castlerig, which is a stone circle. I measured every one of the stones in Castlerig. It's one of the major, megalithic structures in the UK. And here I am. I measured every stone that's there. Okay, and there's the Durham obelisk right there. There's a picture of me at the Durham obelisk. All right.
Huh?
So I thought I'd measure the distance between them. Okay, so the distance between them, it's 61.84 miles. And I thought, oh my goodness, I know I'd seen that number before. So I divided it by 5 and I got 12.368. I thought that is unbelievable because here's the big triangle, the 5, 12, 13 triangle from Stonehenge that I showed you about. And okay, if you take the middle hypotenuse separating the 2 and the 3, at the 5 side, if you divided 2 and 3 and take that, it's 12.368.
Wow.
The hypotenuse of the 5, 12, 13 triangle that divided 2 and 3, and that's the lunation cycle. Just look
Wow.
online. The
Yeah.
new moon, from new moon to new moon, happens 12.36 times every year.
Yeah.
So 12.368 is the unit I found if you divide 5 between the distance between Castlereagh and Obelisk. I thought, well, plainly, if I go 13 to the north, there's going to be something because I've
Yeah.
plainly got a 5 side. You've got
Right.
61.84 miles, do it yourself on Google Earth between the Durham obelisk and Castlereagh. So I just need to head north 12 and see what's there. So where does the 12 side go? Okay. Because it's obvious. So the 12 side would be 184.4 miles because that's 12 times 12.368.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna have a 5, 12, 13 triangle. I've shown how amazing these 5, 12, 13 triangles are everywhere. So we come over here, and where does it take us? Where does it take us? It takes us, okay, look at that. I mean, I'm not making this up. That is a unicorn. It's the national mascot of Scotland. To
Wow.
take the whole thing,
Wow.
here's there it is in the soil. I mean,
Wow.
okay. I discovered a unicorn. And how did I do it? Because of the 5, 12, 13 triangle, the national mascot of Scotland. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's definitely a deep connection between all of this, and it just shows how purposeful and intelligent and maybe even galactic our past on this planet is. And there's just this general understanding within the mass public that are not awakened or who don't search for answers in this way, that the further back in antiquity you go, the less intelligent they are. You know, as if we're just going to reach the cave people and we were just
Yeah.
animals before that point.
Uh-huh.
And there's just
Yeah.
such a narrative being spun. And these sorts of discoveries really show how mystical, even though the mystical can and is now being measured by science, how mystical, sacred geometrical or sacred geometric and really by intelligent divine design that this planet has been coded with so many different memories and data banks, and it's just ready for those of us who are truth seekers to remember and find it. And what that does is it tells the entire general public that they've been lied to. So a lot of what you're doing is going to threaten
Here,
a
and
program.
here's the holy chef. So you can see at this 5, 12, 13 triangle at Giza, you can see the Great Pyramid there. You can see where at the bottom corner you got the holy shaft. Okay, the Tomb of the Birds, we know how amazing that is. We talked about that. The Tomb of the Birds is on exactly the same latitude as the exact center of the Great Pyramid, and it goes right through the tomb, the southern end of the tomb of Hemiunu, the designer of the Great Pyramid. So that tells me at that point in the upper right-hand corner of this triangle, there's probably something inside the Great Pyramid, because the angle formed by the Tomb of the Birds, the angle from north to the Holy Shaft, I showed you, it's plainly a data point. The
Hmm.
Tomb of the Birds is plainly a data point. So I didn't invent this 5, 12, 13 triangle, that angle, because remember, the three sides of a 5, 12, 13 triangle are always going to be the same. One's 90,
Yeah.
So that angle from the Tomb of the Birds to the Holy Shaft is an angle I didn't make up. And so this 5, 12, 13 triangle exists on the Giza Plateau. So when I went into the Tomb of the Birds, which is the by legend, the entrance to the underworld
Uh-huh.
at Giza, you know, there's plainly a cave system there. I went into it. All right. If you enter, so it's called NC2. The name of the Tomb of the Birds is NC2 because it's North Cliff. If you go to the entrance, this is, you can see my shadow there. The sun that's
Uh-huh.
behind me that's shining in is from the north. It's basically the Grand Egyptian Museum. If you would turn around and walk out, you would see in the distance the Grand Egyptian Museum. So this is the north part of Giza. It's the North Cliff looking right at the Grand Egyptian Museum. Okay,
Hmm.
so here I am, and I can see plain intentionality in this altar. Now, Collins doesn't write a thing about this in his book, and nobody has. So what I'm going to show you is the first time it's probably ever been shown to people.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
there's the Tomb of the Birds burial cave. Okay, I'm calling it a burial cave. I don't know what it is, but it looks like a burial section. And this is a video. It's probably not showing on your screen, but that's the video of me taking video the first time I was in there. There's the view to the you can't see. So, anyways, here it is. So I had a laser measure and a tape measure and the phone that's on the measuring tool on the so what's that? That's plainly a niche. That's intentionality. What's
Hmm.
there? That's what I want to know. Okay. So I put the tools on it, and so here it is. Here's the niche. So I'm going to represent it by this white thing there. So the length is 3.5 feet. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the width is 0.584 feet. I just measured what's there. Okay. And then the depth, just measuring with my laser measure there, the depth is 0.792 feet, sort of channeling the size of the earth. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So the volume, just multiply those three, is 1.618 cubic feet.
Wow.
That's the golden number right there.
Yeah.
That's phi. That's
Wow.
phi. It's unbelievable. So what they're showing, oh, there's just this rough tool, this ugly tool. They're just stupid, primitive pygmy beings. They're showing,
Right.
hey, we know we know the golden ratio. We know that's unbelievable. I didn't make that up. Those are my measurements. Okay, it's
Yeah.
5 feet squared. Okay, so there's obviously some intentionality inside the Tomb of the Birds
Sure. For
message. We know
sure.
the foot and we know phi. Okay,
Hmm.
there it is. All right. Okay,
Wow.
then now let's take the niche that it's in. So that niche is in another niche there, and I just showed it by the white outline there. So let's look at that. So the bottom is 5.44 feet, and the top is, look at this, pi. It's 3.14 feet. That's what my laser measure said. So it's
Wow.
3.14. Interesting, okay? And then
Hmm.
if you take 5.44 divided by 3, because you do that all the time in quadrilaterals, or rectangles, you take what's the ratio between the sides? That's all I'm doing. What's the ratio between the sides? It's 1.732. That's the square
Oh,
root of
wow.
3.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Come on now. So you got pi. So, they're saying, and so this is what do they call tau? Two pi is called tau. So the,
Yeah.
the diameter is tau. All right.
Wow.
So it's like, look at all the intentionality here. And
Yeah,
then,
every single thing they do
okay, and then look
is
at that.
built with
So,
this.
so if you take that, I forgot what that's called, the median, whatever, when you take the diagonal and then take the 90 degree to the corner, that's 2.72 feet. That's one megalithic yard.
Yep, yep.
Look at
Wow.
all in these Aboriginal beings, they're just, doing this, ugly chopping in there like little kids. Look at
Yeah.
look at the intentionality here. This is the megalithic
Uh-huh.
yard. So look, okay, now look at this. All right, so now that I'm realizing all the amazing stuff, and I found another wall in there that was tooled, because we can say that, I don't know why Zahiawas, or this is one thing where he's obviously lying when he denies that there are tunnels underneath Giza, because there are. I think one of the reasons he might say there's not is because they're not tooled. That underneath the Tomb of the Birds, that's a natural cave.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't tooled, but I found a tooled wall, and Andrew Collins never did this. It's 12 by 24 feet, plainly a double square, just like the King's Chamber. Intentionality. They made one wall flat. So look at what I found here. So you can see where the Tomb of the Birds is, right there, and you can see where the Great Pyramid, the pyramid that all kinds of names that mean light, and the,
Yes.
the Tomb of the Birds, that's the underworld, that's darkness. So you got darkness and light, they're on the same latitude. Okay. All right. So if you take that distance, that's 749.48 meters. Just do it yourself on Google Earth. Okay. And I'm calling that a radius. So if you make a circle from that radius, okay, then the diameter would be 1498.96 meters. Okay. So what? Well, if you double that diameter, go from one side to the other and back, it's
Mm.
2997.92 meters.
Hmm.
And the speed of light is 299,792
Yeah.
kilometers per second.
Wow.
So doubling that diameter, you plainly have the speed of light. And here's what's amazing about that to me. This is what's absolutely amazing. Using the diameter twice indicates they're aware of the physical limitation of measuring the speed of light. I don't know if you know this, Chris. Most people don't. We don't know the speed of light. We've never measured the speed of light. We do not have clocks accurate enough to measure the speed of light. All
Right.
measurements, all
Down to
measurements
that
of the speed of
precise
light
number.
are from
Yeah.
shooting a beam off, bouncing it off something, and then measuring it with the same clock when it comes back. Because we don't have
Right.
sophisticated started here and then ended here with a different clock. We can't. So we bounce it. So we have no proof that it comes back at the same speed it went. All we know is the average of the two-way speed of light.
And
And so
that's
we
why they
say
call
that's
it the average speed of light.
299,700 kilometers, but we can't really prove it. We all say it,
Yeah.
and it's built into E and C squared. So what they're saying by showing the diameter that you have to go twice, they're saying we
Wow.
understand the
Yeah.
physical limitation of measuring the speed of light. Not only do we know the speed of light, we have the same problem measuring it you do. So I
Wow.
think that
Yeah.
Thoth, Enoch, who the Bible says walked with God through divine revelation, may have been taught what the speed of light is. I
Yeah.
don't know if they measured it, because remember, I tell my son what the speed of light is. It's 299,792 kilometers per second. I didn't measure it. Now my son believes it. He didn't measure it.
Right.
So maybe God told Enoch what it was. I don't know, but that they could not measure the speed of light either, just like we
Right.
can't.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Very cool.
I'm done. I mean, Chris, I've discovered so many things I can't keep track, but I tried
Well,
to spend 2 hours the other day,
um,
knowing I was going to be on your show, trying to keep, because I don't have a photographic memory, so I sometimes go back to discoveries I made, like the megalithic yard that was in the Tomb of the Birds. I forgot about that. And
I
when I just
know.
showed it to you, I remember, holy cow, I just, and I was talking
Yeah.
to you about the megalithic yard earlier,
Yep.
So, I've got it's a there was a man who spent 40 years in Giza working for Raytheon, and he used to go to the Great Pyramid all the time. He wrote a bunch of, and he was convinced that the message in the King's Chamber uh, was that we should use fusion, not fission. That the atom we have atomic power on this earth now, but we don't talk as much as we used to about the dangers of getting rid of radioactive waste. That's a real danger to our planet. And
Yeah.
he was saying that the Great Pyramid King's Chamber teaches we should use fusion, and he shows from the blocks and stuff. But he never put into a book. He was going to put into his wife sent me when he died all his papers and stuff because she knew that no Egyptologist would touch this stuff. And what that taught me was I've got tons and tons of scribbly notes, and unless I put into an organized form these discoveries, they're just me playing around in my
I
in my
get,
in my
yeah.
study. So
Yeah.
I was working to put together, just like to put even this little presentation I just made for you. It takes work to put that
Yes.
together with PowerPoint and Keynote and
Yeah. It's
demonstrating that.
very
And I'm
helpful
trying to
though.
do that. I'm trying to put a book out that has my discoveries because I've made so many of them, and they're just compounding proof that this is there. I'm not making this up. The
Yeah.
ancients coded this stuff. It's there.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I've got enough to do until I die, and that's my mission in life. Seriously.
Well, there's also so much more I'd like to talk to you about. So I'm going to have you on for a part two. Thank you for putting in so much work into the presentation of that, because if you did not have the visuals there, you would have lost me. And I can keep up with a lot of that, but the visuals help so much to, at least if the numbers start to overwhelm the more mystical, artistic people out there like myself, it's the pictures and it's the understanding of the connections and the clear, precise, I would call it not a synchronicity, but a math in action, just watching the universal scientific laws of math in action, just watching it really all connect, really is going to help a lot of people ground into the idea of how ancient this planet actually is, how intelligent the human being actually is, and how much has happened on this planet way before the modern times that we're in right now, and how much we just still don't know about our ancient past. And it's people like you who are not afraid to go past the barrier points or to say there's no trespassing sign, so I think I'm going to take it upon myself to follow my passion and follow where my nose is leading me, and that leads to these incredible discoveries. So I would love for you to share with my audience where we can find you and how people can work with you or check out tours that you offer. Where is your main
Okay, well,
station?
I've got two tours to Egypt. One coming up with Annie Exty, the great researcher Annie Exty. That's going to be April 22nd to May 3rd, but that's on my website. And the other one, what I'm going to tell you, is on my website also. The one in 2027 of August, the longest totality of a solar eclipse over 6 minutes is going to be centered in Luxor, Egypt. And I've got a fantastic place
Wow.
for people that come with me to view this eclipse. Luxor is going to be overwhelmed. Luxor is already this mystical, magical capital. And when you say the longest solar eclipse of the century over 6 minutes of totality, Luxor is going to be wall to wall, crowded.
Yeah.
I've got a way to see this eclipse that's going to be magical. And so
Wow.
that's August of 2027. So those are two Egypt trips coming up. And again, they're on my website. My website's easy to remember. One word, Great Pyramid. Just remember that, Great Pyramid, one word. And since I'm a not-for-profit organization, it's .org. And that'll show a bunch of my discoveries. It'll show when the tours are. It'll have my books and stuff for sale. Some of the books I didn't talk about are on there. So that's probably the main way. On Instagram, I'm at Sage Silent. Sage Silent on Instagram. On YouTube, I'm at, because they have handles now on YouTube. My handle is at The Great Pyramid.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for being here. And for those of you who want to go on a tour with Larry, want to check out Larry's work, check out his books as well. You can go to his website, greatpyramid.org, and check him out on social media. And I just want to say thank you again for being here, Larry, and thank all of you for joining in and tuning into this amazing conversation as we dive deep into our ancient past and our origins and all the incredible architecture and intention that has gone into building and creating the grids on this planet. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing, Larry, and thank all
And,
of you
and
for having an
thank
open
you, Chris.
mind
I,
and
I just,
joining in. Yeah,
if I could just make a closing statement
sure.
too, um, when I led a tour to Stonehenge, most of my tours have been at the Great Pyramid to Egypt. I've led 20 tours to Egypt, but when I led a tour to Stonehenge, I found myself saying to my tourists, I said, one thing that I've definitely learned from these ancient sages from whom I've extracted this information that they plainly encoded is their humility. And I can sense that in you too. There's a great reserve in your style, your moderation, and that to me is one of the things that, besides all these numbers I just showed you and these amazing revelations, it's that humility that's connected to this that maybe is different, because the modern age, you become
Yeah,
famous, you get a Nobel Peace Prize, or you're awarded with a professorship, so you got to be awarded. And that's
right.
not the sense I get from the ancients. It's like they had this, and it was just part of they're
Yeah.
connected to the world they were a part of. It was just part of the connection, and that they knew about it, and they didn't have any great, pride because of it.
Ego
But
around it. Yeah.
so thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing your humility and your willingness to look at the truth of things and um, really just love on humanity with the work that you're doing, because you're just making us remember more how magical and powerful and intelligent and connected we're meant to be on this planet and how we have been. So thank you again, and thank all of you for joining us for another episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast.